Urgent. I have 30 days to stop my brother from taking my home, all because my parents think being single makes me unworthy. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon, while I was knee-deep in blueprints for the new community center project. I almost didn't answer. Deadlines were looming, and my team was counting on these designs by Friday. But something made me glance at the screen. Mom. Unusual for her to call during work hours. Alex, are you sitting down? Her voice had that forced cheerfulness that always signals bad news. What's wrong? I asked, immediately alert. Is Dad okay? Everyone's fine, honey. It's about the house. My stomach dropped. The house? My home for the past 3 years? The charming bungalow that had belonged to my late Aunt Maggie, which my parents had inherited and allowed me to live in while I saved for a down payment on my own place. The home I'd poured countless hours into renovating, from the custom bookshelves in the study to the garden beds bursting with Aunt Maggie's heirloom roses. What about it? I managed to ask, though I already sensed what was coming. Your father and I have decided it's time to make some changes. We're transferring ownership to Michael. Michael, my brother. Happily married with twin daughters and already living in a house 3 times the size of mine in an upscale neighborhood. But I live here, I said stupidly, as if this fact might have somehow escaped her notice. We know that, dear. That's why we're giving you 30 days to make arrangements. Michael won't be moving in. He's going to rent it out as an investment property for the twins' college fund. 30 days. 1 month to uproot my entire life. To find affordable housing in a market where prices had skyrocketed nearly 50% since I'd moved into Aunt Maggie's place. Also, my financially comfortable brother could add another asset to his portfolio. This doesn't make sense, I said, my voice shaking slightly. You always said. I know this is a shock, Mom interrupted, her tone shifting to that soothing register she uses when she thinks I'm being unreasonable. But your father and I need to think about the future. Michael has family responsibilities. The girl's education won't pay for itself. And there it was. The unspoken but crystal clear subtext. Michael's needs matter more because he's married with children. My single status makes me less worthy of family support. We'll discuss more at Sunday dinner, she continued, apparently oblivious to the emotional earthquake she'd just triggered. Your father has all the paperwork ready. Oh, and please don't mention this to Michael yet. We want to surprise him. Surprise him. With my home. As if it were a birthday present rather than the place where I'd rebuilt my life after a devastating breakup, where I'd established roots in a community I'd grown to love, where I'd planned my future. I have to go, I managed to say before ending the call. For a long moment, I just sat at my desk, blueprints forgotten, trying to process what had just happened. Then the anger hit, a white-hot fury that had me grabbing my keys and heading for the door. If I had 30 days to save my home, I wasn't going to waste a single minute. My parents' house, the one I grew up in, sits on a tree-lined street in the affluent north side of town. It's a stately Victorian that has been featured in the Historical Society's annual tour 3 years running. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed my father's Audi and let out a small breath of relief. Both of them were home. Good. This wasn't a conversation I wanted to have twice. I didn't bother ringing the bell, using my key instead, a symbolic assertion of my place in this family that suddenly felt necessary. Alex? Mom called from the kitchen, sounding surprised. Is everything okay? I found them both in the sunroom, Dad reading the Wall Street Journal on his tablet, Mom arranging flowers in a crystal vase. The perfect picture of upper-middle-class retirement contentment. No, everything is not okay, I said, not bothering with pleasantries. You're taking away my home with 30 days' notice so Michael can have a rental property he doesn't even need. Dad set down his tablet with that deliberate calmness that always made me feel like a hysterical child. Your mother mentioned she spoke with you. I was hoping you'd take some time to think rationally about this before rushing over. Rationally? I repeated, incredulous. There's nothing rational about evicting your son from his home without warning. It's not eviction, Alex, Mom interjected quickly. And it's not your home. It's our house that we've generously allowed you to live in at below-market rent for 3 years. Most people your age would be grateful for such an opportunity. Most people my age. The comparison stung, as it was meant to. At 34, I was supposed to be settled, married, mortgage, maybe kids. Not still living in a family property, focused on a career I loved instead of conforming to their life script. I am grateful, I insisted, which is why I've maintained the property, made improvements, treated it like my home. Because you told me, we never promised you the house, Dad interrupted, his tone taking on that lawyer precision he uses when establishing facts. We allowed you to live there temporarily while you established yourself. Established myself? I'm a senior architectural engineer at one of the top firms in the city. I've designed buildings that have won national awards. I'm established. Professionally, perhaps, Dad conceded with a slight nod. But personally? Where's your family, Alex? Who are you building a future with? And there it was, the real issue laid bare. My single status was a failure in their eyes, a sign of immaturity, of incomplete adulthood. So, because I'm not married, I don't deserve stability? Michael gets the house because he checked the boxes you approve of? Mom sighed, exchanging a look with Dad that made my blood boil. That our child is being difficult look they'd perfected over decades. This isn't about punishment or reward, she said, her voice gentle but firm. It's about practical resource allocation. Michael needs to build generational wealth for his children. You don't have those same concerns. Not yet, I countered. But I might someday. And even if I don't, that doesn't make my needs less valid. Dad leaned forward, hands clasped together, his negotiation posture. Alex, this decision isn't up for debate. The papers have been drawn up. The transfer will happen in 30 days. We're giving you notice out of courtesy, not because we need your approval. The finality in his voice made something break inside me. Not just disappointment or anger, but a fundamental shift in how I saw my parents. No longer as the supportive figures I'd always believed them to be, but as people who valued me less, because I lived differently than they had expected. I see, I said quietly, standing up. Well, thank you for the clarity. I now understand exactly where I stand in this family. Don't be dramatic, Dad said dismissively. This is a practical decision about property, nothing more. But we all knew that wasn't true. This was about worth, about who deserved support and who didn't, about whose life path was valued and whose was found wanting. As I walked out, I heard Mom call after me, "We'll see you Sunday for dinner, right? We can talk more then." I didn't answer. I wasn't sure there was anything left to say. Back at the house, no, not my house, never my house, according to my parents, I paced the rooms restlessly, seeing everything through new eyes. The built-in shelves I'd crafted in the living room, the kitchen backsplash I'd tiled myself, the garden beds where Aunt Maggie's roses now bloomed alongside my vegetables. All improvements made with the tacit understanding that I was investing in my future home. Unable to settle, I went to the basement to find my toolbox. Maybe some mindless repair work would help calm my racing thoughts. As I searched through the storage shelves, my hand brushed against a dusty box labeled Maggie's Papers. I'd brought it from her assisted living facility after she died, intending to sort through it properly, but never finding the time. Now, with a strange sense of purpose, I pulled it down and carried it upstairs. Inside were the expected items: old photos, birthday cards, miscellaneous receipts. But at the bottom, sealed in a manila envelope marked House, I found something unexpected. A letter addressed to my parents, dated just weeks before Aunt Maggie's death, and a second envelope with my name on it. With trembling hands, I opened the letter to my parents first. Richard and Elizabeth, it began in Aunt Maggie's elegant script. As we've discussed, I'm leaving the Oakwood property to you upon my death, with the understanding that it will eventually pass to Alex. I've seen how that house speaks to him, how he envisions its potential in a way no one else in the family ever has. While I understand your concerns about giving too much to a young person, I believe Alex has the maturity and vision to be the proper steward of my home. I'm trusting you to honor this intention, whether through your will or through a direct transfer when the time is right. The house belongs with someone who loves it for its character and history, not just its market value. With love and confidence, Maggie. I sat frozen, the letter clutched in my hands. There it was in black and white. Proof that Aunt Maggie had intended the house to be mine all along. My parents had known this, had apparently agreed to it, and were now deliberately violating her wishes. With a growing sense of both vindication and betrayal, I opened the envelope with my name. My dear Alex, Aunt Maggie had written, if you're reading this, I'm no longer able to tell you in person how much your appreciation for the Oakwood house has meant to me. From the time you were a child, sketching improvements to my garden shed, I knew you were the one who would truly value this place. I've left the house to your parents with explicit instructions that it should ultimately pass to you. I hope they've honored this wish. If not, this letter may serve as evidence of my intentions. Remember that a house is more than wood and stone. It's a vessel for memories, a canvas for dreams, a sanctuary from the world's chaos. You've always understood this in a way the rest of the family doesn't. Make it yours in every sense, and know that wherever I am, I'm smiling at what you create. All my love, Aunt Maggie. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Not just tears of grief for the aunt who had understood me so completely, but tears of rage at my parents' betrayal of her explicit wishes. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about honoring Aunt Maggie's legacy. I reached for my phone, took photos of both letters, and then did something I'd never done before. I called a lawyer. Patricia Menendez's law office occupied the 9th floor of a downtown high-rise. As I sat across from her the next morning, watching her read through Aunt Maggie's letters, I felt a curious mix of anxiety and resolve. "These letters are helpful," she said finally, looking up at me. "They establish clear intent, though they don't override the legal deed transfer to your parents." My heart sank. "So there's nothing we can do?" "I didn't say that," she replied, a strategic gleam in her eye. "Tell me, Mr. Harrington, what matters most to your parents?" "Their reputation," I answered without hesitation. "Especially my father. He's very concerned with how the family is perceived in the community." Ms. Menendez smiled slightly. "That gives us leverage. Your parents may legally own the house, but if they transfer it to your brother against Aunt Maggie's explicit wishes, they risk significant reputational damage. You want me to threaten them with public exposure? The idea made me uncomfortable, despite my anger. Not exactly, she clarified. I'm suggesting we draft a letter outlining the situation, including the discrimination you face as a single individual. We'll note that this issue, families prioritizing married children over single ones, is a form of status discrimination that deserves public attention. And if they proceed anyway, then yes, we'll be prepared to share your story. But my experience suggests that people who value their reputation often reconsider when faced with potential public scrutiny. As I left her office, a plan was forming. The lawyer's letter would be our official response, but I needed something more. Something that would make this about more than just my house. That evening, I started writing. Not a formal complaint, but a personal essay titled, "The Single Tax: How Our Culture Punishes Adults Who Don't Follow the Traditional Path." I wrote about workplace expectations that single people should work holidays because they don't have family. About how unmarried adults are often passed over for promotions because married colleagues have more financial responsibility. And yes, about how family resources, including inheritance and property, are frequently directed toward those who marry and have children, regardless of need or merit. When I finished, I sent it to a former college classmate who now edited a popular online magazine. "Interested in publishing this?" I asked. "It's a personal story with broader social implications." Her response came within hours. "This is powerful. Would love to run it. Can you be ready for the potential backlash?" These pieces tend to strike a nerve. I thought about my comfortable, conflict-averse life before this crisis. How I'd always been the peacemaker, the one who compromised to keep family harmony. How that approach had led me directly to this moment, about to lose my home because I hadn't fought for what was rightfully mine. "I'm ready," I replied. Sunday dinner arrived with a storm brewing, both literally, as thunder rolled in the distance, and figuratively, as I prepared for what would likely be the most confrontational family gathering of my life. I arrived exactly on time. Aunt Maggie's letters in my bag, Ms. Menendez's draft letter on my phone, ready to be sent if necessary. My mother greeted me with a too-bright smile, my father with a curt nod. Michael and his wife Sarah were already seated in the living room, the twins playing with tablets on the floor. "Uncle Alex!" 5-year-old Lily exclaimed, abandoning her game to hug my legs. "Did you bring us anything?" Despite everything, I smiled genuinely. "Not today, Squirt, but we're still on for that science museum trip next week." "If you're still in town," my father interjected coolly. I met his gaze steadily. "I'm not going anywhere, Dad." The tension in the room thickened and Sarah quickly intervened. "Girls, why don't you show Grandma the pictures from your dance recital?" As the twins scampered off with my mother, Michael approached me. "Hey," he said awkwardly. "Can we talk privately for a minute?" We stepped onto the back patio, the air heavy with impending rain. "Look," he began, "Mom told me about the house situation. I want you to know this wasn't my idea. Dad approached me with it as a done deal." "And you accepted," I said flatly. Michael had the grace to look uncomfortable. "It's a good investment opportunity, and with college costs projected to rise—" "Save it," I interrupted. "I don't need the financial justification. What I need to know is if you understand what's really happening here." "What did you mean?" "This isn't about investment strategies or college funds. This is about Mom and Dad valuing your life choices over mine, rewarding you for following their approved script while punishing me for choosing differently. Michael frowned. That's a bit dramatic, don't you think? They're just being practical. Is it practical to ignore Aunt Maggie's explicit wishes? To take a home from someone who's actively living in it and give it to someone who already has a beautiful house? What are you talking about? Aunt Maggie's wishes? I pulled out the letters, watching his expression change as he read them. I didn't know about this, he said finally, looking genuinely troubled. Dad never mentioned any instructions from Aunt Maggie. Of course he didn't, I replied bitterly. Because it didn't fit his narrative, his plan for who deserves what in this family. Michael was quiet for a long moment, rereading the letters. This changes things, he admitted. Does it? Enough for you to refuse the house. Before he could answer, the patio door opened. Dinner's ready, Mom announced, her gaze darting between us worriedly. The meal began in strained silence, broken only by the twins' chatter and Sarah's valiant attempts at small talk. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. We should discuss the property transfer, he said, directing his attention to Michael. I've prepared all the necessary paperwork. We can sign after dinner. Actually, Michael said, surprising me, I've been thinking about that. Maybe we should reconsider the arrangement. Dad's eyebrows shot up. What's there to reconsider? The decision has been made. But is it the right decision? Michael pressed. Alex has been living there for years. He's made it his home. And now I find out Aunt Maggie specifically wanted him to have it? All eyes turned to me as I pulled out the letters again, placing them on the table. Where did you get those? Dad demanded. From Aunt Maggie's papers. The ones I brought from her room after she died, I replied calmly. Letters you apparently chose to ignore. Mom looked stricken. Richard, you told me Maggie had only expressed a vague preference, not left specific instructions. These aren't legally binding, Dad insisted, though he didn't deny their authenticity. The deed transfer to us was unconditional. This isn't about legality, I said firmly. It's about honoring Aunt Maggie's wishes and about recognizing that my needs, my stability, my future, they matter too, even if I'm not married with children. Of course they matter, Mom said quickly, though she didn't meet my eyes. But Michael's responsibilities are exactly that, his responsibilities, I interrupted. Not yours to solve by taking something from me, something that was explicitly intended for me. I agree, Michael said, his voice quiet but firm. I can't in good conscience take Alex's home knowing Aunt Maggie wanted him to have it. Dad's face hardened. This is emotional manipulation. The property is legally ours to dispose of as we see fit. You're right, I acknowledged. And I can't stop you legally. But before you proceed, you should know that I'm prepared to make this public. What does that mean? Dad demanded. It means I've written an essay about how families discriminate against single adults in resource allocation, about how unmarried children are often treated as less deserving than their married siblings. I've sent it to an online magazine with a circulation of about 2 million readers. The blood drained from Dad's face. You wouldn't. I already have, I said calmly. The editor is ready to publish as soon as I give the word. I'm also prepared to share Aunt Maggie's letters, to show exactly how her wishes are being ignored in favor of supporting the child who followed your preferred life path. Mom gasped. Alex, you can't. Think of your father's position in the community, his reputation. I have thought about it, I replied. Just as I've thought about my position in this family, apparently less valued because I'm single, less deserving of support, stability, and consideration. "This is blackmail," Dad sputtered. "This is leverage," I corrected. "The only kind available to me, since appeals to fairness, family loyalty, and Aunt Maggie's wishes have all failed." A heavy silence fell over the table. The twins, sensing the tension, had gone unusually quiet. Finally, Michael spoke. "I'm withdrawing from the property transfer. Whether or not Alex publishes his article, I won't be part of taking his home." "Michael," Dad began warningly. "No, Dad," my brother interrupted firmly. "This isn't right, and you know it. Alex is correct. We're treating him differently because he's single, and that's wrong. He shouldn't have to threaten public exposure to be treated fairly in his own family." I felt a surge of gratitude toward my brother, mixed with lingering resentment that it had taken such extreme measures to reach this point. Dad looked between us, his expression calculating. I could almost see him running the risk assessment in his head, the potential public relations damage versus the property value. "If we transfer the house to Alex," he said finally, "will you agree not to publish that article?" "I'll agree not to include our family's specific situation," I countered. "But the general issue of discrimination against single adults still needs to be addressed. That article will be published in some form." Another tense silence as Dad considered his options. "Fine," he relented at last. "We'll transfer the property to you instead of Michael. But I want it understood that this is a gift, not an entitlement, and I expect you to demonstrate appropriate gratitude." It wasn't a gracious concession, but it was a victory nonetheless. I nodded, accepting the terms while silently acknowledging that my relationship with my parents would never be quite the same again. In the weeks that followed, several things happened in rapid succession. True to their word, my parents transferred the deed to the house into my name, though they did so with minimal communication and maximum legal formality. My relationship with them remained strained, our Sunday dinners suspended by mutual unspoken agreement. My essay, retitled "Single but Not Lesser: Confronting Discrimination Against Unmarried Adults," was published and immediately went viral. Thousands of comments poured in from readers sharing similar experiences about family resources unfairly distributed, about workplace discrimination, about subtle and not so subtle messaging that their lives were somehow on hold until they married. "Your words gave me the courage to confront my own family about how differently they treat me compared to my married siblings," one reader wrote. "I shared this with my boss, who apologized for always assuming I could work late, because I don't have family responsibilities," wrote another. The article caught the attention of a literary agent who reached out about expanding it into a book. A popular morning show invited me to discuss the topic, introducing me as the architect leading a new conversation about single adult discrimination. But perhaps the most significant change came in my relationship with Michael. Free from the property competition our father had manufactured, we began rebuilding the close bond we'd had as children. He became my most vocal supporter, even writing a companion piece to my article from the perspective of a married person acknowledging their privilege in family and social settings. "I never realized how differently our parents treated us until Alex pointed it out," he wrote. "As the married son with children, I was given priority, resources, and consideration that my equally accomplished, equally deserving brother was denied. This isn't just a family issue, it's a societal one we need to address." 3 months after that fateful Sunday dinner, I hosted a housewarming party, not because the house was new to me, but because it was finally, legally, mine. Michael and Sarah came with the twins, bringing a hand-carved wooden sign reading Harrington Haven for the front porch. "This place was always meant for you," Michael said as we hung it together. I'm sorry it took such a battle for everyone to see that. Some battles are worth fighting, I replied, gazing up at the sign, even when they cost you something. My parents declined the invitation to the housewarming, but Mom did send flowers with a card that read simply, "Congratulations, we hope to visit soon." It wasn't reconciliation, not yet, but it was a start. A recognition that relationships require respect for different choices, different paths, that family love shouldn't be conditional on marital status or adherence to traditional life scripts. As for me, I find myself in an unexpected new role as an advocate for single adults' rights and recognition. The book deal was signed last week, and speaking engagements are filling my calendar. Through it all, I come home each evening to Aunt Maggie's house, my house now, truly mine, and feel a profound gratitude for the crisis that forced me to stand up for myself. The roses in the garden still bloom as they did in Aunt Maggie's time, but now they're surrounded by new growth, new possibilities, a future unfolding on my own terms. Make it yours in every sense, Aunt Maggie had written. And finally, irrevocably, I have. The experience of fighting for my home, of confronting the subtle discrimination that permeates how we value different life choices, has taught me lessons that extend far beyond property rights. For those who are single by choice or circumstance, know this: your life is not on hold. Your needs matter. Your stability matters. Your future matters. Don't let anyone, family, employers, society, convince you that your existence is somehow less complete, less deserving of support and consideration. For parents, consider how you treat your adult children. Do you unconsciously favor those who've followed traditional paths? Do you distribute resources based on perceived need that privileges conventional life choices? Remember that each child deserves support tailored to their unique circumstances, not measured against an outdated template of what adulthood should look like. For everyone, examine the subtle assumptions in your own thinking. Do you ask single friends to work holidays because they don't have family obligations? Do you expect unmarried siblings to care for aging parents because they have more time? Do you unconsciously view adult singlehood as temporary, a phase before real life begins? The conversations sparked by my viral article continue to reveal how deeply ingrained these biases are, and how transformative it can be when we recognize and challenge them. Last week, I received a letter from my father, brief and formal, but containing something I never expected: an apology. Upon reflection, he wrote, I see that my actions regarding the house were influenced by biases I hadn't examined. Your essay made me uncomfortable, but discomfort often precedes growth. I'm working to understand. In the meantime, I respect your choice to advocate for this issue even if it makes our family dynamics more complex. It's not perfect, it's not complete, but it's real progress. The kind that comes only when we're brave enough to name injustice, to stand firm in our worth, to insist on being valued for who we are, rather than who others think we should be. 30 days. That's how long I thought I had to save my home. Instead, I found something more valuable: my voice, my courage, my unwavering belief that every life path deserves respect and recognition. Whatever your path, I hope you find the same. If this story resonated with you, please share your own experiences in the comments. The conversation about single adult discrimination is just beginning, and every voice matters in creating change.